AI isn't just a buzzword, but it is also a business imperative. How can we also now use it in the future of brand building as well as business strategy? It's time for us to spark ideas and insights, and it's also time for me to welcome onto my stage our speakers for today. So put your hands together. Let's welcome Arjun Choudhary, Vice President, Swiggy, India. Also welcoming the Director of MakeMyTrip, Sanket Prakash Tulangekar. We also are delighted to have with us Tejas Apte, Head of Media and Digital Marketing, Hindustan Unilever Limited. And we also have with us the Chief Marketing Officer, Voltas Limited, Pragya Bijalwan. And let's also meet our moderator for this session. We enjoyed yesterday's session with her as well, Anuradha SenGupta, independent journalist and producer. Over to you.
You know, she mentioned, our wonderful MC mentioned how ChatGPT burst onto the scene in 2022, and generative AI and AI burst into the public consciousness, okay? I mean, AI has been used for years now. We've been seeing applications, but generative AI that we could use as lay people, that happened with ChatGPT. And it seems that since then, public imagination and public discourse has been dominated by AI. It's AI this and AI that. Business has started using it, and business is also, you know, we just saw Microsoft, which offers AI laying off 6,000 people, and 2,000 of them were software engineers. So this is going to have far-reaching implications. We are, very grateful to have this very diverse industry sectors represented here. And I'm going to ask each one of you to start by telling us how AI and the way we understand AI today is being used actively in your respective businesses. From there, we'll go on to marketing. Pragya, why don't you set the ball rolling?
Okay, right. Okay, so when we talk about AI in industry like Voltas, which is into heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, it's all about providing convenience and comfort. And I think AI provides limitless possibilities for doing so. And why do I say that? The entire industry is running after driving innovation in the product, driving innovation in service, and driving innovation in predictive maintenance for this. We've got a B2C side of the product, we've got a B2B side of the product. Interestingly, in the B2C side of the product, the innovation is led by personalization, right? So if you walk into a room and you log in through your app, the AC will understand exactly what kind of temperature suits you, right? So the temperature is monitored accordingly. The second part is energy efficiency, right? To Indian consumers, energy efficiency is largely about frugality, right? So what about my, energy bills, electricity bills? Because air conditioning is all about total cost of ownership and not just buying the initial product. So a lot of the brands are also looking at driving energy efficiency by telling the consumer that if you've got this much wattage of consumption, ration on every month basis, this is how your energy is getting consumed. And on a weekly basis, you can monitor the energy. That's the second part. The third part, if you see, a lot of advertisement also talk about the fact that you talk to your air conditioner or appliance through Google and Alexa. There's an aspiration to talk to the appliance directly, right? So in my view, I think the way I see the industry, we're looking at humanizing technology by using AI. That's what we're doing. The second part, which is very core and fundamental to our business, is serviceability, right? You buy an air conditioner, half the time, or any other appliance, large appliance, I would say, half the time you're worried that, what if something goes wrong, right? Would I be serviced on time? So we've got a whole lot of consumer data sitting with us, and we use CDP quite aggressively to understand what are the common issues a consumer could come across. And then in the back end, we prepare on the spare parts and also the time accordingly. So if we know after 2 years, this is what the spare part requirement would be for a particular consumer, and basis our consumer journey or the vintage the consumer has with us, we start triggering the consumer to go for predictive maintenance, or in case they need the spare part, the TAT involved is fairly less. So of course, we're driving innovation in terms of, moderating the product accordingly, being service ready at any point in time, and also driving consumer conversations, which is a whole lot of a different ball game. So
We'll get to that in the next section. Tejas?
Yeah, I think the first area that we actually started using AI extensively was in our R&D department. So we have something called as the Agile Innovation Hub, where it's quite simple in 2025 to think of what we are doing, but maybe 5 years ago it wasn't. We basically track trends on CPG or FMCG products globally, look at what's trending. There are 3D printers, so you can print out an SKU, what it feels like, what it looks like based on the trend that you spotted. The bots actually mix different fragrances, different textures, different chemicals, give you a feel of what your shampoo or what your moisturizer might feel like, again based on the trend that you spotted. And then we also have a content studio which we started 5 years ago in-house. So right from identifying a trend to having a prototype of your product, I think we started using AI quite some time back and have been using it extensively. The other place where we use, again, extensively is in actual manufacturing. So we have 2 factories which are now lighthouse factories as classified by WF. It basically means they're roughly dark factories, all run by machines. And someone sitting in our Andheri campus can change the price of an SKU and it starts getting printed immediately almost. So huge applications in supply chain. The third, where we've used extensively, is in upgrading Kirana stores. So just like you have all the commerce apps to order as consumers, there's an app called Shikhar, which are GT partners or Kirana stores used to order directly from HUL. So almost 20% of all the turnover that we sell is now ordered through that app. At one level, it feels like it's a simple whatever ordering app. So what's AI about it? There are, I think, 2 cool things. So one is, if you as a shopkeeper send us a photo of your shelf, we can recommend products. In the back end, we already know what you've bought in your previous cycle, so we can tell you cross-sell, upsell, etc. So a lot of applications on AI over there. The second is we enable them to run innovative marketing campaigns. So we did one with Arshad Warsi in Q4 last year, where it would be something like, अब आपका प्रकाश किराना स्टोर में क्लिनिक प्लस 10% डिस्काउंट में, and the Prakash Kirana would change to, I don't know, Mahesh Kirana, and whatever the case. So about 150,000 versions we created, all using AI, of course. And then in marketing, I'm assuming we'll come to it, so I'm going to hold on. But if someone is super, super curious and anxious and wants to be the first venture, then you can Google right now something called as HUL, Sangam, and Media, and you will know what we are doing on AI, or you can wait for 10 minutes and I can tell you what it is.
Yeah. Sanket, what's
Audible?
MakeMyTrip doing?
Yeah, so AI and machine learning has always been there at MakeMyTrip. But after the introduction of Gen AI in 2023, end of 23 and 24, there have been a lot of use cases that we have tried to support, primarily via Myra, which is our travel assistant. One of the typical use cases that I would take is, a lot of people, when they go through a accommodation or a stay, there are a lot of reviews that everyone has to go through, right? So the simple use case here was, can we summarize all the reviews and give a very holistic idea about what this property property means? So that was one of the the review summarization is one of the feature that we've come up with, and it is being, users are quite, it's very useful for people just to quickly look at the summarized review of a particular stay and take a conscious decision. Whether they like it or not, it's a different thing. So review summarization has been one of the good feature which we have developed over Gen AI. Then apart from that, I would say a lot of people here would be looking at whenever you book a property, you are trying to look at whether this particular property has a swimming pool, whether this particular property has a kids play area, and so on and so forth, right? So all of this information you can get by having a natural language conversation with Myra. So you can just go open Myra and ask, does this property have a swimming pool? And the answer would be whatever is there. So this is another typical good use case which is being accepted by users. The other important feature that we've also enabled on Myra is the assist flow, or we call it assist mode. Whenever you are having a conversation with Myra and when we detect that there's a search which the user is doing, probably say you are trying to book a flight from Bangalore to Delhi, and you're trying to book a flight on 25th of May. The moment we identify that you have all the information there, why don't just auto-apply that search and show the whole flight listing page to the user so that it's very easy for a user to navigate across. He doesn't have to think, okay, I'll have to again go back, do the flight search, so on and so forth. So that's another very use case which is being used, which is heavily being used by all the users. Apart from that, Myra as a travel assistant has evolved a lot. Now, we're just launching the agentic framework on Myra. What an agentic framework means is it's going to have a multi-agent capabilities. You can think of different agents like there's a hotel agent, or accommodations agent, which is going to help you out with all the hotels or accommodations related queries, whatever you might have. Then the flights related queries, ground transport related queries, probably any bus related, cabs related information that you would like to need. And then the last agent that I would like to talk about is a destination discovery agent. So that also plays an important part. Now think of it like this: a user or our customer comes on the app and says, gives a query. Now what Myra internally does is it does a seamless orchestration across different agents, gets back the response and gives it to the user. Now if I have to create an analogy here, probably you're asking me a question right now. And if I don't have the answer, I'll probably go back to my colleague and ask him what this specific thing means. He will give me the answer and then I'll tell it to you. So this is the typical implementation which is done as part of the agentic frameworks. So different queries that you could solve with Myra as an agent is, let's say you are planning to go to some place, some trip planning queries like what is the best time to visit North Goa, or what are the activities that I could do in North Goa.
Right.
So all these queries you could solve.
Arjun, what's Swiggy doing?
Yeah, so rather than, I think so we'll talk about the product side, might be a little later as you mentioned in the other parts, but one of the big things for us on AI is, Gen AI is how we have started using it internally. One of the big things what we actually ended up doing is, for the past quarter, the core leadership has been going through a weekly 3-hour session on using platforms. And now from generating our own code, from generating product demos, I think the leadership is trained, and which is kind of forced downstream everyone to use. So just to give you some sense, over the last quarter, we have built stuff like co-pilots for our sales teams. We always had these dashboards which sales folks used to look, but they look half of the dashboards, they don't look at the other half. Now you have a co-pilot for them where they generally ask, this is the area I'm responsible for, why were the sales down, what was the conversion, what was the traffic drop, and through all the systems of access, and whatever access they have, all information gets pulled in, it gets answered. Similarly, we have built something very similar for our restaurant partners. Again, with them, the challenge is the same, that you can give them dashboards, but a restaurant partner will really be able to do till what extent. But now with the conversational Gen AI, it's so simple for them to understand how is his ad spends, where is he leaking, how is his rating going up and down. So that's the big focus area where we've really gone deep into. Just talking about some of the other very interesting things is today for me when I work, all my meetings get recorded on Gemini. I have a code which transfers that to Notepad LM, and end of the day, the meetings where I want to read a summary while driving back, I hear it on a podcast. So that's the mode at which we've kind of moved. And I think so it's actually come right through the top with our Harsha, who's our founder, who's kind of made this a big agenda. And now, like downstream, every week we are seeing making some of the other pilots. And the other big revelation has been is product PRDs. Now, it's not only just gone to product managers, but even business folks are creating their own PRDs. They are creating their own user journeys. And those level of discussions have just gone to a next level of the quality of discussions have improved, because you're suddenly the business guy comes with a proposition which is just not a few lines, but he actually is coming up with a short demo of how he envisages the product to behave. So I think those things are really changing the game in terms of how internally we are operating. And I think so that's what Gen AI has done. On the core product side, obviously, recommendations have always been something on previous history. But in session, that's where Gen AI is really changing the game. How does the in-session journeys play? What kind of recommendations play around with what you're doing during the session? We see that defining a lot. How we look at cataloging. We have images from restaurants, or we have images as in all FMCG products, etc. Now, instead of just going with static images, we are using AI to create videos out of those images, which are far more immersive, and content is going that. Or I'll give you an example. When we launched quick commerce, the rate of growth, most of these products, we had systems were very well listed on multi other platforms. So if our cataloging was not complete, through AI, you are able to scrape through multiple platforms, and you can complete your catalog information. And we did it over a week's time, and which ideally would have taken about 2.5, 3 months. So I think that the real game changer, I think so everyone has been using AI at the tech standpoint, that's been for ages, but the normal day-to-day business guys, them using, I think that's where the big change is.
Yeah. So, Tejas, what is the kind of, what Arjun just said is that this work has been happening for a while now, and it's really going full steam ahead. You just mentioned at HUL that you'll have been at it for a while. Is it different now because it's in the public domain, this concept and conversation about AI? And is this all proprietary, developed by yourselves? Or how is it working? And what kind of investments are we looking at?
So I think whether it's proprietary or not depends on what we are using. Some, of course, is proprietary because it's built in-house. A lot of it could be using existing platforms, customized for Unilever. I think what's happened because suddenly everyone is aware of generative AI. I think the stuff that was happening in supply chain, sales teams and R&D before, all the marketing teams are now suddenly saying, okay, great, now there's generative AI. I can on my WhatsApp prompt the AI bot over there saying, can you concept test this for me, or can you write this concept for me? And people are now, you can do it on WhatsApp if you want. I'm not saying people are necessarily, but you can. So what's really happening is that the marketing guys are leaning in way more than what they would before. And because the other thing which I think is important good thing we have is that we have a bunch of creative people who sit in our campus, and all of them have professional AI tools at their disposal, like Pencil Pro, for example. Which means if a brand manager has a concept, he or she could literally just take the elevator down, create a full-fledged creative good enough to be pre-tested in a span of 10 or 15 minutes, test it out. And if it's a digital asset without a human face, the whole asset could just be made on generative AI. And this is not something which I'm talking will happen 6 months down the line. It's something that we've been doing for a few months now. So if there is no human face, we are quite okay putting assets out in the digital space, which are totally made with generative.
Can you give us an illustration?
Sorry?
Can you give us an example?
I mean, you can go on, I don't know, maybe a Lux page or a Dove. Soaps actually did one, which we call miniatures internally. If anyone's on Instagram, you can go check it out. I think we put it out about 3 weeks ago. So again, one of the younger people in marketing team thought it's a great idea. Miniature was a trend, which we spotted globally. And we said, what can Dove soap and miniature look like? And I don't know, I mean, maybe after the session, it's on Instagram, as I said. All of it is made on Gen AI. Or most of it is made on Gen AI. I won't say all of it. Most of it is made on Gen AI, to be clear. But yeah, a lot of teams are using it, and a lot of content is actually now Gen AI created. And as humans, unless you know that you've used Gen AI, you actually wouldn't know that the output is Gen AI. Gen AI is that good now. So yeah, I think interesting times, definitely.
Pragya, Tejas just said there's a lot of work that's being created that is using generative AI, and you wouldn't even know sometimes. There's some ethical questions that are coming into play right now, and these are on the consumer front, right? So do you think we need to have labeling of AI-generated content when it's used for marketing communication? Or is that labeling, what purpose is it serving?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense to use AI-generated content. And as you mentioned, social uses that a lot because social media is now becoming more and more topical, right? And you've got very little time to go back and communicate to the consumer and make your interaction very engaging. That's what Gen AI does. You do it within no time. And it's a little new gen also, the way they kind of churn out the creative, right? It's not stereotyped, and it breaks quite a few stereotypes as well. Another interesting thing which we in Voltas did actually, leveraging on the insight that our character Murthy was very relatable because we used it for more than a decade, and that's one character which made AC a very relatable category. So what we did was we got Murthy to talk to a large part of our channel partners, and the only personalization which was done is that the channel partner's name and shop was taken, in the conversation. You'll be surprised to know that the CTR which we got was about a 98%, so almost everyone clicked. And the view-through rate was about 87%, so almost everyone saw it as well in full. So that's what people are looking forward to. They're looking for quick, creative conversation. They're looking for conversation which is highly personalized to me. In fact, in case of channel partners where Murthy was talking, a lot of them actually responded and thought that they can talk back. So, that was very interesting and engaging. So I think it has a lot of merits.
Yeah, Arjun, what do you make of the fact that on the consumer front, there are going to be safety guidelines that have to come into place? The US wants no regulation. Europe wants too much regulation. And in India, the government policy at this point is self-regulation. They're pushing for self-regulation. Do you have any thoughts of how are you dealing with these issues?
See, I think so. Overall, I think so there's a lot to play here with AI. If you look at, there is, in terms of authenticity of content and everything, there's a lot of gray areas. And though the government is going for self-regulation now, we'll have to see how it plays out, because we are ourselves seeing that many times in terms of content, there is duplication of content, there is content misrepresented in many formats. We have had our own issues where some of our content has been published by somebody in a little different context, and when those kind of
situations where your content has become part of the training data set for someone else's.
Yeah. So I think so. Eventually, this needs regulation for sure. I think so. Eventually, anything, if it has to be used to its potential, there needs to be some set of regulations which need to come. We are obviously very conscious about how we are going to treat our own consumer data, and in terms of what consumers see on our platform and how that interaction plays out. But
should advertising that is purely AI generated, should it all be labeled, and is that enough on the communication front, the consumer communication front?
I think so. Anything which is pure advertising, I think so. I'm not sure if it's really mandatory for it to be labeled, whether it is AI generative or it is actually creative using the traditional mechanisms. But I think so. What's more important is when you use anything which is already being used, or when you're making on top of something, I think that's where, which is you have a very basic sense of just giving courtesy to whoever the original creator is, or not using, misrepresenting any content. I think that's where the bigger play is. I don't see any gaps in terms of, we've had, for example, in our case, if you look at it, we try and control that our restaurants do not use AI generated images for food, because obviously we want people to genuinely see what the food looks like. So those are places we want to be very, very conscious. While on the other hand, if you shoot a bunch of images of your food and you want to represent it as a video format, a short form format, or create something with that, that absolutely makes a lot of sense. So I think so there's a thin
It's all
balance.
a bit fluid now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, obviously regulation is something which should come, and let's see how it plays out.
Sanket,
Yeah.
what's your view on
Yeah. So when it comes to the content which is generated by generative AIs, right? There are three things which come into picture first. First is the accuracy of the content which is getting generated. Now the accuracy of the content depends on the data model, how the training data set was for a large language model. So accuracy, biasness is another important thing which comes into picture. And the last important thing which also comes into picture is the evaluation. Whatever content we are generating.
Say the 3 points again.
So first is accuracy.
Uh-huh.
Second is biasness. How correct the information
Accuracy
is.
and bias.
Accuracy and biasness. The other important thing which also comes into picture is the evaluation of the content. Whatever the content which is generated by the large language model, that has to be evaluated before it even showing it to our users. That is also important. So that way you can tackle the content which is generated, because it is moderated and evaluated. You can show that content to the users because you can trust your evaluation or moderation frameworks. There's a concept called as red teaming, which is usually used with generative AI to make sure that the security is also taken care of. So yeah, so that is something that we do at MakeMyTrip.
Tejas, the DPDP Act, the new law, is that something that will impact the use of AI in terms of consumer-facing
I mean, from what
functions?
What we've read so far, and personal knowledge, not company knowledge necessarily, is that it may not. So it looks like there are two distinct spaces. So we are focusing more on Gen AI right now, and DPDP is more in the space of consumer data. So it looks like there are two distinct spaces.
But aren't you using, in terms of when you're reaching out to customers and consumers actually, aren't you using website-based data to then?
Of course. So I think if your communication is, if the job of communication is to make your brand more relevant to the consumers, and if one of the enablers for that is having consumer consented information about the consumer.
How do you see people impacted? Because we haven't talked about people and job functions and the role of AI. I mean, you're in advertising, we're talking about films being generated by AI, right? We already heard instances of that. So are there other functions that you see AI impacting directly?
No, okay, so I think it's a very talked about subject. And it's like any other evolution, right? Long back, people were not used to Google, right? It's just a transformative stage. It won't impact people as long as people are trained, okay? Part of the responsibility is, of course, on the organization. Part is on the individual to get evolved, learn it, because AI will be function agnostic. So it's not going to be marketing, it's not going to be supply chain, it's not going to be only sales, it's going to be everyone in the organization. So I don't think so the jobs are at threat. It's just that people will have to learn a little more about it to get used to it. So on the other hand, I feel that a lot of organizations are now looking at skilled people in this area. So if you kind of get hands-on with that, there will be further more jobs for you. So I don't see a people part. The other people part is, of course, responsible marketing, which you talked about, data privacy, which I think should be as mandated as a CSR in any organization. And all the functions need to know that the data protection laws are relevant to the organization's functions and their work areas, and how do they keep the guardrail alive.
Impact on people or functions, kinds of functions that
I think it will make everyone more productive. That's how I see. And will the scope expand, and will we be doing more things with AI? 100%. Just the pace at which it develops is phenomenal. So it will be like stupid to sit here and say what will AI do in 6 months, because whatever you imagine would possibly happen next month.
Way beyond the imagination.
Exactly. So I think it will impact all functions, and it will make all of us way more productive for sure.
Okay. Sanket?
Yeah, so I would just like to close it off saying it's a lot of exciting times coming ahead, especially because of the way product development is going to be done. The speed at which the product development will happen now will be, it will speed up the development that way because of AI coding assistants. Yesterday we might have seen the Google I/O, a lot of new products which are coming. So same.
Arjun, you'll have the closing word.
I think so. Overall, AI, where it's been, I think so it'll keep on evolving from there. Gen AI, I believe, is going to be a life skill.
Going to be?
A life skill. It's pretty much going to determine how we work, It's like going to be like math, that you need to know a base amount of math to work around in your day-to-day life. You need to know a little bit of AI to do a bunch of things. And I think so organizations will need to really take it up heads on. I don't think it will have a real impact in terms of redundancy to people, but it will definitely have a huge impact in terms of the quality of output and impact people bring in. People who are AI trained, they will significantly have an upper edge. There are many skills a lot of people have, but AI helps you go into those areas where you can't even think of and bring in those insights, bring in those capabilities. So I see this as a life skill. For me, one of the smallest things is a few days back, my daughter wanted to just recognize colors. So it took me about 6 minutes to create a game where it threw colors and she said, that's yellow, that's green. And that's what you can do. It's from interaction at your home to my day-to-day work at the workplace, and how we even think about our consumers and their journeys. I think so it's a life skill.
So it's a good thought to close on, that this is going to be a life skill and you need to have some basic knowledge of it. But I think everyone here is very positive about the impact of AI. I'm not sure that all the ethical and safety issues are fully ironed out, but I think that's another conversation. But the potential use is unlimited, unimaginable even, I guess, at this point. Thank you, Pragya, Tejas, Sanket,
Thank you so much.
Arjun.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.